I just wanted to make sure I wasn't violating TOS. GG. Because, Streamlabs can let you stream to different platforms. Good stream. Yeah, we're done. Now we get to... Nope. So welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. My name is Alok Kanoja. Just a reminder that although I'm a psychiatrist, nothing we discuss on stream today is intended to be taken as medical advice. Everything is for educational or entertainment purposes only. If y'all have a concern or question, please go see a licensed professional. Not that we were on YouTube. I was concerned that we were on both, which is breaking the rules of both. How many white button-ups do I have? 4. Good question. Last time I checked, 4. 4 that are wearable, I should say. I'm a creature of habit. Wait, are we not live anymore, chat? Did I really screw it up? Okay, so, how often would... Okay, so cool. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. So we were going to do an interview, but that got rescheduled because of things. So I was like, okay, so we were like, oh, should we cancel stream today? We don't have anything planned. And I was like, you know what? When we started this, we never had anything planned and it worked out great. And I actually kind of missed that. So we've got some stuff that we can talk about, but my hope is that for the next couple of hours, we can just kind of hang out and do what we used to do back before we were cool. There's the, oh yeah, I listened to this band before they were cool. And it's like, I want to be what I used to be before I was cool. So I've got a lecture topic that we can talk about if y'all want to. There's a subreddit post that we can cover if y'all want. So one of those things, I've been doing a lot of research into personality. And if you guys want to understand how to become a different human being, we will teach you how to do that today. But that's up to y'all. Second thing is there was a cool post about do affirmations actually work? And we can talk about that today. But the other thing that I'm really hoping for is that we can just vibe. So if y'all have questions, let's just ask them, right? And we'll do what we used to do and just, do what we used to do. And we'll learn a lot today. We'll explore stuff together. We'll figure things out. Maybe y'all will teach me something about the internet and I will teach you something about a human. But let's just do that. Are y'all down with that? How to create oneself. Yeah, we'll talk about that. So a couple of things. So on Monday, we're going to be doing a stream on trauma. So we also have a special announcement that we will be making on Monday. So if y'all are interested in trauma and or new things we are doing, definitely check that out. In terms of stuff that we have been doing for a while, definitely check out group coaching. So we've got spots available for group coaching. And it's interesting. I actually talked to someone. I did an interview that I'll probably get uploaded to YouTube. Who was talking about their experience in group. And I was asking them, what makes group good? And so they said that, my favorite thing about group was that I learned how to be, a normal, functional human being. And I was kind of confused by that, and I asked them to explain, and they said, well, the problem in life is that no matter who you are, you learn some things, and then you don't learn other things. And so if you've fallen behind, it's not as simple as watching a YouTube video. It's there's a lot of skills building that needs to happen. And group is actually a fantastic place to do that. And then people get kind of confused because they're like, hold on a second. I came into group, but there's not a curriculum. People aren't telling me to do 5 push-ups a day. And how am I supposed to learn how to communicate and learn how to listen and learn how to be vulnerable? But that's the cool thing about group is that there's a lot of stuff that you can gain that is not something that you do, if that kind of makes sense, right? So over time, it sort of shapes the person that you are, and it fills in a lot of gaps for the weaknesses that people have. So that could be everything from something that I call compassion exchange, which is if you don't feel like you're a good person and that you're not able to help people, right? When someone authentically tells you, hey, you've actually had a big impact in my life and you really helped me get through this problem. Like that changes your sense of self-esteem. So it's a place to like get self-esteem. The challenge is that group does a lot of other things. Like, so it does teach you how to communicate and be a good listener, and teaches you how to not socialize in the sense of making small talk, because it's actually about more than small talk. And then the other really interesting thing is that there are certain boundaries around group that allow you to learn some of these skills without the rest of life getting in the way. So we're like, okay, like if I want to learn how to socialize and form connections with people, I can hang out with people on Discord, which is absolutely true. But then y'all queue up for games together, and they're queuing up with these people, and they're not queuing up with you. And then do you talk to them about it or not talk to them about it? There are a ton of people who play Dungeons and Dragons. And I love D&D because it's like a way for people to connect and share stories and have fun and even socialize. The problem is that like D&D groups are filled with some of the most socially inept people on the planet. Right? And I say that as someone, I started playing D&D at the age of like 9. And like, the reason I started playing D&D is because I didn't know how to socialize with regular human beings. And then what happens is you get a bunch of people who don't know how to socialize, and then they don't understand things like boundaries. They don't understand things like emotional awareness, which is why DMs start power tripping. Right? And people are like, oh, like your character makes me uncomfortable. You need to switch characters. And it's like, hold on a second. Or on the flip side, you know, someone is doing things that are like really egregious and triggering and traumatic to other people. And it's like, how do we navigate this stuff? Right? Dr. K thinks your D&D group is full of socially inept people. They used to be. I hear horror stories on the internet. But I think the cool thing about D&D is that we're playing, like more socially adept people are playing D&D now. So I imagine it's changed a lot because it's becoming kind of mainstream. Like they made a movie about it, which apparently wasn't half bad. And so anyway, so if you guys like, I don't know how else to say this, but if you're like, I have a problem in life and I'm not sure exactly what it is, or I have multiple problems in life and I'm not really sure how to fix it, and you've tried self-help stuff for a while, you're like, I've tried YouTube videos, I've tried watching streams, but like, I'm just not making progress. The key thing about group is that if you sign up 20 weeks from now, you will have made some progress in some dimensions. And that's the key thing. And you're like, well, 20 weeks, like, oh my God, I can't wait that long. I want progress to happen tomorrow. And how long have you already waited to make progress? Because real progress takes time, right? Getting in shape, developing healthy habits takes time. And the cool thing about group is all you have to do is show up. So yeah, it takes time, but then like you don't have to structure a plan. You don't have to stick to a plan. You don't have to like be held accountable. So if you suck at that stuff, just show up to group and we'll do the rest. And you're like, what am I going to get? And the answer is, we don't really know, but you'll get something for sure if you keep showing up, because that's what the coaches are trained to do. Anyway, what is this groups thing? So we offer group coaching here at HG, and we have spots open for the first time in a very long time. So yeah, our coaching program has been full. And part of the reason that we're doing group is because we've got a waiting list of like over 1,000 people. I think it's 1,500 at this point. And we're, you know, we're trying to certify as many coaches as we can every year. But we just can't keep up. Like we started coaching, I want to say 3 years ago with like 8 people, and we have close to 150 coaches now. And like, they're working as fast as they can. They can't get to everybody. And so that's why the group model is like really successful, because you can just help more people. It's a little bit different from personal coaching in the sense that if you've got a specific problem that you want to work through, then personal coaching is good. Especially stuff like career coaching works really well, right? If you've got a problem with your career, then do career coaching. But I think for a lot of people who are like, I just generally want to level up, right? I want to open up a loot box that will have random amounts of leveling stuff up in my human being and in my life. If you want a random assortment of level ups in your life, then group tends to work really well. Yeah, so A3GG saying, I'm objectively bad at adulting. That's what group will help you with, right? And it's not completely random. So like you can go there and focus on one thing, and the coach will recognize, okay, like 6 out of 8 people in group need to work on this thing, so we're going to level that up. So there's a lot of intentionality on the coaching side. The problem is that from a telling y'all what to expect. Like, the answer is it depends. And the other really tricky thing is that oftentimes when you think you have a problem, you try to fix that problem, but things don't get better. And that's because that's not actually what the problem is. And that's what we see on stream, right? Where someone comes in and is like, Dr. K, my problem is this. And then by the end of it, we realize, like, that's not actually your problem at all. I mean, it may be a problem, but your solution is pointed in the wrong direction. Cool, #X27. I'm glad that you think of me as the GOAT. Your videos make for incredible second monitor material. I listen to them all the time. Thanks. You are very welcome. Okay. Josiah444 is saying, so you need to open up to a group of strangers instead of one. Sounds terrifying. Yes, it does sound terrifying. The good news is that it is not terrifying. All right, so this is the problem in life. When we hear things that sound terrifying, we don't do them. But if you think about it, that's a huge mistake. Why does it sound terrifying? Because you have no experience. And without any experience of knowing what it is, you make a judgment. And then you retreat from your hypothetical. And when you retreat from the hypothetical, you never get any experience. And if you never get any experience, you don't know what it actually is, but you've knocked it off of your list. Right? This is the big scam of life. Is that our fear is supposed to protect us. And as things sound terrifying to us, we move away from them. But fear evolved for a world where we're like being hunted by tigers. Not a world where we are talking to people on the internet. And so our brain is maladapted. We didn't design a human being to function in this society. So the very things that kept us alive now screw us over. Right? It's like, it's a scam. Oh my God, this sounds terrifying, so I'm not going to do it. And it's, since you never do it, you're never going to discover that it's not terrifying. And so you're living your life based on a hypothetical without actually collecting data. And we wonder why we end up stuck or why we have problems. Your brain is scamming you? Yeah, but it's doing the best it can. That's what our brain does. Our brain scams us. It doesn't think it's scamming us. It's just an instrument that was designed for a different day and age. And so what we have to do is like adapt intentionally to the world that we live in today. I've reached a point where I'm considering dating, but Tinder is anxiety triggering. So, if you are considering dating, why the hell are you considering Tinder? If Tinder is anxiety triggering, you can use it, but it's not going to I don't know that that's going to help you. Right? So I recently saw a study, really fascinating. So if y'all want to know why it's hard to find people on Tinder or date people on Tinder, or why people will go through 200,000 people to get a date. So really fascinating study that shows that 50% of, I think, and this isn't anti-women here, 50% of the women who use Tinder are using it for non-dating purposes. So there are other psychological needs that are being met through Tinder, whatever they may be. I'm not sure. Whether it's attention, whether it's ego, whatever. I'm sure that a lot of dudes use Tinder for non-dating purposes. Oh, well, I don't know about that, but that's not, the study showed that for women. So that's just what the study was looking at. And so somewhere along the way, Tinder became the standard, but I don't know that it's a good standard. Well, what makes Tinder so good? Well, Tinder is good because I don't have to do anything. But it also doesn't work. So you can expend very little effort and get very little return, or you can expend some amount of effort and actually get pretty good return. Tinder also apparently has a rating, like an ELO rating, where if you swipe right on someone who doesn't swipe right on you, your MMR drops. And then you like eventually end up in a pool of like low MMR people. Bro, what options do I have left? LMAO. Right? So that's a good question. What options do you have left? No, that's how Tinder works. Right? And this is when people say none. Okay, so now actually this is a great segue into the lecture for the day. Okay, this is beautiful. So today we're going to talk about how to change yourself as a human being and how to become a different human being. Because I don't know if this is true for y'all, but when I was growing up, there were times where I wanted a life transplant. I wished that I would wake up one day and had a different life. Like I wished I was like rich and famous and athletic and disciplined. And like, I wish I could just get transplanted into one of these lucky people's lives. And then I could be a degenerate gamer. But what's actually more devastating is that sometimes I wished that I could wake up and be a different person. I don't need a different life. I wanted to take one of those successful people out there and transplant them into my head. And I wanted to be one of those people who could do stuff in life instead of being a loser. And the crazy thing is that you can actually do that. You can wake up as a different person. Now that may sound insane. You're like, wait a second, how can I wake up as a different person? That sounds impossible. The real irony here is not only is it possible, it's something that we as psychiatrists do on a daily basis. So when I work with someone who has a personality disorder, what we do is we change their personality. So there are people with narcissistic personality disorder who go through life as narcissists. There are people with antisocial personality disorder who go through life as sociopaths. There are people with avoidant personality disorder who wind up on Twitch. And there are people with dependent personality disorder who wind up on Twitch and end up showing up to every one of Dr. K's streams. These are people whose personalities shape the life that they live. Right? So, and the tragedy here is that a narcissist goes through life and thinks that everyone out there is against me. This person is screwing me. This person is screwing me. This person is treating me like crap. This person is disrespecting me. And they go out there, they think, oh my God, all these people are screwing me up. But if you know a narcissist in your life, you know that the other people out there are not the problem. The narcissists themselves is the problem, right? They're the cause of all of their misery. And how do we know this? We know this scientifically because we've developed evidence-based treatments like dialectical behavioral therapy, mentalization-based therapy. We develop these psychological evidence-based treatments that will take a narcissist and after about 12 to 18 months, start to turn them into a non-narcissist. We will change their personality. And then something really cool happened. A bunch of people diagnosed personality disorders. A bunch of people developed treatments. And then a group of researchers sat down and said, I wonder what is the common element to all of these treatments. And they discovered the core facet that is responsible for changing someone's personality. And that's what we're going to teach you today. Because it works for narcissists, works for sociopaths, it'll work for you too. And what this comes down to is the concept of metacognition. So before we kind of dive into that, we need to understand what personality is. So personality is three things. The first is it is the way that you interpret information. The second is it is the way that you react to things, circumstances. And the third it is the way that you behave. So it's the way that information comes in, some kind of transmutation or alchemy goes on in here, and then a behavior comes out. This is personality. And you may say, wait, hold on a second. How is that personality? Well, let me give you an example. Let's say we take two different people who have two different personalities, and they get faced with the same situation. I got dumped. One person will interpret that information in one way. Wow, I really suck at life. They will react to it in here. They will form some kind of conclusion. I am unlovable. and it will affect their behavior. The next time I want to ask someone out, I'm not going to do it. A second person gets broken up with. They interpret that information. Okay, this person is breaking up with me. Sometimes people grow apart. It doesn't say anything about me as a human being. Internally here, they will react to it in a different way, right? We drifted apart. That happens in life. I wish them all the best, and if I keep looking for love, I will find it. When they are attracted to someone, they will actually ask them out. Do y'all see that? So personality, it's not some weird like, oh my God, like personality is like, it's who I am. And like, it can never be changed. And like, I am me. No, it's like we've scientifically figured out that personality is these three things. It's the interpretation of information, the internal reaction, and the external behavior. That's it. And if you can change those three things, you can change who you are, literally. And we do this all the time. Now, here's the big scam, is when we go through life, we don't actually try to fix that process, right? We try to fix everything on the outside. So if you take a narcissist, what they end up doing is they don't think that their interpretation is wrong. Like, no, someone is treating them poorly means someone is treating them poorly. And then what does a narcissist do? I try to shape someone else's behavior. I try to control everything around me. And this is why narcissists become manipulative. They become difficult to deal with. They cross your boundaries. Why? Because they're trying to shape your behavior. Right? So we go through life trying to fix the stuff outside of us. So I'll give you all, let's just do this real quick, okay? Let me tab over so we can understand this. Okay. Does this work? Great. So let's understand this. In life, there are events, circumstances, people. Okay? And what we try to do is we try to control these things. I want to get promoted. I don't want to get dumped. I want this person. I want my parents to love me unconditionally. And if you guys pay attention to what kinds of questions people ask, they ask these kinds of questions. How do I go to a party without feeling anxious? Give me a technique to be able to get promoted. Hell, we do that in career coaching, and there are techniques, and it works pretty well. Right? How do I get this person to stop bullying me? How do I get my dungeon master to stop crapping on my character? How do I get all of this stuff in life to change? And this is where people like biohack and life hack and whatever, like, oh, I'm going to change all this stuff out here. Like, here's a promotion hack given to you by a hack, right? Someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. Now, the interesting thing is, as we go through these experiences, we start to form conclusions. Now, this is the self, and this is outside. So, for example, if I get rejected twice, I will start to think I am unlovable. If you sort of think about, like, incels, for example, they have lots of conclusions about the world. And those conclusions shape their behavior. But here's the big scam, is that we can't actually control any of this. And the only thing that we can control is up here. You can't control anything outside of yourself. All you can control is the internal stuff, like literally, right? I'm not telekinetic. I can't lift things outside of myself. I can't make people love me. I can't make people give me promotions. All I can do is fix the internal. But we ignore this. So if you think about any conclusion that you formed about yourself, did you question the conclusion when it happened? No, of course not. It is a natural conclusion based on evidence. And this is what the researchers discovered, that we have a layer of not thought over here, but we have a layer of something called metacognition and meta-emotion. So what this means is the way that I think about my thoughts, not the initial thoughts themselves, but the conclusions I draw from them, and the way that I have emotions in response to my emotions. So let's talk about meta emotion for a second. So I feel anxious at a party. And then what do I do with that emotion? I get angry at myself. Damn it. Why am I such an anxious loser? I start to fear the party. I start to get anxious about anxiety. So if you look at people who have panic disorder, what scares people who have panic disorder the most is not the actual panic attack. It is the fear of the panic attack. What if it happens while I'm driving? What if it happens while I'm having sex? What if it happens during a job interview? And it is the anxiety about the panic that actually controls more of their life. There's studies on this. This is why people with panic disorder become agoraphobic and they stop leaving the house, because they never know when the anxiety attack is going to happen. And so if we think about what screws you in life, it's not being anxious at a party. It's being angry at yourself for being anxious, being ashamed at yourself. And then what ends up controlling your behavior? It's not this. It's actually this and this. Because if you're angry and ashamed of yourself, how do you think you're going to behave at a party? Who's going to walk into the party? It's going to be someone who thinks they're pathetic. And the problem is everyone asks, how do I stop being anxious at parties? They never ask the question, how do I stop judging myself for being anxious at a party? And this is the stupid thing, is that you can't actually control whether you're anxious at a party, but you can control your self-judgment, because that happens in here. And at least you've got some control in here. You guys get this? So this is what we understood from like studies of personality disorders, is when we take a narcissist and we turn him into a non-narcissist, we work on this, not on this. Because therapy for narcissistic personality disorder is, I know it sounds insane, not getting people to be nice to you, which is their complaint, right? They're like, everyone treats me like crap. And the therapist is not like, all right, I'm going to come with you and I'm going to give them a piece of your mind. I'm going to tell them that they're being mean to you. They need to be nice to you. You go talk to everyone in their life and your therapist is like your bouncer, comes with you and they're like, be nice to my patient. You are so mean and so cruel. Stop it. That's not what we do in therapy. And if y'all know, like, sometimes narcissists will even convince people to do this, right? They'll recruit your parent, or your parent will recruit your sister or family member when you try to set a limit on them, and they'll try to guilt trip you. It's like, let's raise the militia and attack this person who is not giving me my narcissistic needs. What we do in therapy is we help people change their metacognition. And that's actually the only thing that you can control. Like, you can't control that. But you may say, hold on a second, Dr. K, but it feels impossible. Yeah, the reason it feels impossible because you've been practicing controlling stuff that is out of your control instead of controlling what is in your control. And this is something that we just figured out in the field of psychiatry, but they've known this for thousands of years in like ancient India and China and Tibet. So monks change their personality. You're like, wow, look at that monk. That monk can sit there and meditate every day and is disciplined and is compassionate. Like, do you think all those monks were born that way? Hell nah. They literally, the average Zen master is in training for 30 years. And what do you think they're doing? They're rewiring this. That's like literally their job. And they figured out how to do it. And the crazy thing is, it's not even that hard. The only reason it feels hard is because you've never tried it and you don't know how to do it. So how do you change your metacognition? Step number 1, be aware of the metacognition. So be aware of any conclusions that you draw from any experience that you have. So anything that you conclude about yourself. If you get dumped twice, I'm unlovable. You got to catch that. But that's the thing. We don't catch that, right? We think it's true. It's not true. Literally, it is not true. It is a conclusion. A conclusion is a thought. It is a judgment. It is not truth. It is not actually evidence. Do y'all get that? No conclusion in your mind is technically evidence. Any conclusion in your mind is by definition an opinion, because this thing is not a scientific instrument. It's an opinion instrument. Literally. So catch any conclusions that you form. That's the beginning. Step number 2. Try to make a different conclusion. And I know that sounds weird because you're going to say, like, I can't make a different... Fuck you. Yes, you can. If you try, you can make a different conclusion. Is there any other way for you to interpret this situation? And this is the problem with narcissists. They do not do that, right? The narcissist, and if you know a narcissist, you know what I'm talking about. There's like literally a whole other side of the story, but their mind is not able to see it. And so when I'm working with someone like that, like what I'll do is I'll ask them, hey, what else could be going on? Do you think that maybe there's any other reason why this person did not text you back within 5 minutes? Is there any possibility that this other human being, I don't know, this sounds kind of crazy, has a life of their own? And maybe they're having a bad day, which is why they're not emotionally available to you. But we don't do that. Right? Yeah, it's like y'all are saying, they hate me. That is the conclusion that you come to. But that's not necessarily true. So you have to shape your conclusions, right? At least question them. And then hopefully what you can do is come up with some alternative. So what I'd say is like, come up with like some alternative. You don't even have to decide. What are 2 other interpretations for this situation? Come up with 2 other interpretations. Give yourself a list of 3, the automatic one and 2 more. You don't even have to pick. And if you do this, you will actually start the process of metacognition. You will change your metacognition. You will start to change who you are. Literally. The last thing we're going to talk about is meta emotion. Because this one is like also kind of weird, but so this is, it's beautifully illustrated by a Buddhist story. And in the tradition of Buddhism, they have this story that they have this kind of proverb or whatever that in life, you get hit by 2 arrows. One arrow is to the knee, the second arrow is to the other knee. The first arrow is the arrow that life shoots at you. Can't protect against that, right? Like sometimes crap happens in life. The second arrow is the one that you shoot at yourself for getting hit by the first one. This is like ancient monks developed this principle, which we can see today when we queue up for a video game. My teammate fed, so I'm going to start feeding too. And then what happens to your game? You lose. And who do you blame it on? You blame it on your teammate, who sucks. But what can you control? You could have won that game. I can't win that game with a crappy teammate. Let me drop all my items and destroy them. This game is unwinnable. And it's like, what the fuck, man? The reason it's unwinnable is not because of them. They're crappy people who play games all the time. You queued up in matchmaking where everyone is the same general rank. The reason you keep losing is because you keep on destroying your items. And this is exactly what happens with a narcissist and exactly what happens in each and every one of our lives. It's the stuff that we do to ourselves that screws us the most. And if you sort of think about it scientifically, if it's truly circumstances, eventually RNG will be in your favor and you'll do okay. But if it's a pattern in your life, it doesn't have to do with the outside world. It actually has to do with you. And once you realize this, you can actually become a different person. And then the cool thing is once you become a different person, then your life, the course of your life will change 100%. Because now as all of the RNG events happen, instead of throwing your items and running down mid and feeding, you're actually like, okay, this is a setback. We're going to try to win anyway. The game ain't over until it's over. And then you become one of these like resilient powerful Chad people who like don't let setbacks knock them down. And then like once you don't let setbacks knock you down, it's like, wow, that would be pretty cool. Yeah, how does that happen? It happens up here. So if you want to change the person you are, focus on your metacognition. Focus on your meta emotion. Right? And someone's bringing up stoicism. So stoicism is another example of what does a stoic work on? What is the object of their work? A stoic goes into a workshop and works on something. What is that? It's all internal. A yogi goes into a workshop and works on something. It's all internal. And what do we work on? We go post on Reddit about some dumbass in my game is feeding. How can I win this game? And then people will tell us, they'll give us answers, and then what'll we do? We'll argue with them, and we'll get downvoted into oblivion. And that's like, what I love about Reddit is it's like a pretty good microcosm of what we do in real life. Yeah, all yogi LCS team. That's like literally what sports psychology is, right? And we did that for a little while. I've worked with like 30 or 40 pro gamers, and I teach them to be yogis. And sometimes they do better. It works. And if it works for narcissists and it works for professional gamers, it'll work for you. Questions. Changing seems exhausting. Excellent point. Love it. If you think change is exhausting, let's consider a couple of scenarios. Number one, how exhausting is your life today? Are you filled with joy and energy and passion and motivation? Why are you so sensitive to exhaustion in the first place? Because you're exhausted. Right? It's like, what kind of person is sensitive? Like, oh man, that's expensive. The person who worries about whether something is expensive or not is the person who doesn't have money. So if you are afraid of exhaustion, the first thing to understand is the only reason you fear it is because you're exhausted. You go to a playground and you see 6-year-olds playing on the playground. They're not worried about the exhaustion that comes from playing on the playground because they have lots of energy. When your cup is full, you can afford to spill some. So first thing is, it's exhausting to be in your life sometimes, right? I've certainly felt that way from time to time. The second thing is that changing is only exhausting until you learn how. And this is the big tragedy in life, is the stuff that is good for us feels bad. And the stuff that is bad for us feels good. I didn't make the rules, y'all. It's just how it works. And so you need to change your relationship with your own suffering. And if you want to put together your life, stop being afraid of your own suffering. It is in the avoidance of our own suffering and the avoidance of difficulty that we actually end up making our lives full of difficulty and full of suffering. That's the big scam. I wish it wasn't that way. I wish the stuff that felt good made us better human beings. And I wish the stuff that felt bad made us worse human beings. That's not the way that it works. It kind of does, actually, but conversation for a different day. Yeah, so what I was saying is that it's our fear of our suffering that actually traps us. Right? So if I think about like, oh, I want to go to the gym, but that's hard. I want to go to this university, but the application is a lot of work and I may get rejected. And so the problem is we're very miserly with suffering. We want to we're really careful. We can't like toss it out into parts of our life. Like we can't do things that evoke suffering. And so like when you become stingy with your suffering and you try to minimize it and hold it and wrap it away and push it away, instead of being liberal with it, then your life actually moves in the direction of more suffering. And this is why Buddha said, life is suffering. So he discovered a really good way to help people cognitively bypass it. He said suffering's a given, whether you do it or you don't do it. No matter what you do, you're going to suffer. And if you accept that suffering is a given and cannot be avoided, suddenly your life changes. Because now you don't have to avoid stuff. And now people may say, but hold on a second, suffering's not a given. There are things that bring me pleasure and don't bring me suffering. Incorrect. Let's understand this. So technically, the word that we're talking about is dukkha. Dukkha is translated into English as suffering. But technically what dukkha means, if you literally translate it, what it means is empty space. So any experience that you have in life that is not complete, and we'll get to an example, that's where dukkha is. Dukkha is in the empty space of even pleasurable experiences. So I'll give you all a simple example. Let's say I eat a cookie. When I eat the cookie, I enjoy it. It's fun. But I feel guilty. I shouldn't eat a cookie. I should eat a piece of fruit. Or I should eat like baby carrots. So in that pleasure, there's a tiny little space of guilt. And that's dukkha. It takes a pleasurable experience and then we add a little bit of guilt to it. Right? And that's dukkha. And then we say, well, okay, hold on a second. I know how to fix that. I'm going to be stoic. I will not eat the cookie. So then you're looking at the cookie and you decide not to eat it. And then you avoid the guilt of eating it. But your life is still empty. There's the emptiness of, man, I wanted the cookie. Why can't a cookie be healthy? Why can't a cookie be full of fiber and vitamins? So whether you eat the cookie or don't eat the cookie, there's going to be some empty space, right? I'm proud of myself for doing something healthy, but there's a little bit of gap there. It's like, I really wanted the cookie. So you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. And so if you're struggling in life and you're like, man, life is hard. Yeah, you're right. And that can't be fixed. So what are you going to do about it? Because it is in our false belief that if we find some magical route, then we will be free of suffering. We look to other things. And like literally, whether you eat a cookie or you don't eat a cookie, you will suffer either way. And then you say, well, in one situation, the amount of pleasure outweighs the suffering. In one place it's small, and in one place it's big. So I'm going to pick the bigger one. I'm going to choose pleasure over suffering. But like, that's not going to work, right? And you just have to look at your life to understand that you can choose to eat the cookie every single day, and then the suffering will grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And you'll say, well, what if I avoid the cookie? Will my suffering grow and grow and grow and grow and grow? And actually, the answer is yes. So then the question becomes, well, hold on a second. How do I enjoy life then? And that's where what you have to do is surrender to suffering and just accept it, right? You're going to say, hey, look, sometimes in life, you got to eat unhealthy things. And this is an unhealthy choice I'm making, but I'm going to make it with awareness. And it's like, yeah, you know, it sucks, but I'm going to just enjoy this cookie. And like, it's not ideal, but that's what I'm going to do right now. So when you accept things as non-ideal, that's when the suffering goes away. If you're dating someone and you're like, well, my partner isn't great at this. And you're like, yeah, they're kind of scuffed as a human being. But that's the choice that I made, and I'm going to accept them for who they are. And it's going to cause me some amount of pain or frustration or annoyance. And that's just how it is. You can't get a 10 out of 10. It's impossible. I'm going to resign myself to being in a relationship with this person. And that's when the relationship becomes successful. Right? So it's not, and this is the wild thing, the pleasure or suffering is not in the cookie. It is actually in here. It is the guilt in here that makes you suffer. not the cookie. It is the wanting in here that makes you suffer, not the cookie. And so now we get to the utter stupidity of life, which is if you really technically look at where suffering exists, it doesn't come. It is not neither relieved nor comes from out there. It's all in here. And yet what do? We go chasing it out there. And there's a whole industry that's built up on this, by the way. So if you go to like a health food store where it's like, Uncle Tom's keto cookie, high fiber. Keto cookie, it's keto, low carb. Eat it. Eat it guilt-free, huh? It'll be good for you. It's a cookie, but we will market it as healthy. We will have this guy like a lumberjack who is holding the wood, and we'll put keto on the front. And we'll put low carb. And we'll put gluten-free, organic, non-GMO. All of the guilt that you have from cookie, we will take it away. And then you're like, well, damn, son, that's awesome. And they're like, yes, each of the things that we put keto, $1 more. Gluten-free, $1 more. Non-GMO, $1 more. And this is how we got to $7 overpriced, still unhealthy cookies. There's recently a study that showed that basically all of these vegan alternatives and like all these like healthy versions of things are ultra processed foods. Right? And when we ultra process food, that actually leads to bad health outcomes. I'm not saying that being vegan is a bad health idea. It can be very healthy. But if you want to be a healthy vegan, don't eat a bunch of ultra processed vegan crap. Right? Like the ideal healthy vegan diet is if you're like eating things like grains and vegetables and fruits and oils, nuts. Like by all means, go be one of the best meals I've ever had. Top 3 meals in my life was at a Korean temple. Everything's vegan. Delicious. But it's not like food trying to be another kind of food. There's no cookies there. It's like, if we start with vegan ingredients, how can we make things delicious instead of how can we take this non-vegan thing like a cheeseburger, and how can we take this stuff like nuts and wheat and other things that could be pretty tasty like carrots, and how can we morph and transform that so that it resembles a burger? Miso soup is delicious. I don't know. I think it qualifies as vegan. I mean, I know it's like, bioavailable and stuff, and there's like cultures in the miso. I think it's vegan. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Yeah. Rage Against the Keyboard is like, how did we get here? I don't know, man. I showed up and I didn't have a plan. That's where we ended up. Okay. So NP Sal is asking, Dr. K, but what about the super triggering stuff that feels too hard? So there are two things about that. One is you don't have to do that stuff right away, right? So you can level up your tolerance. And the second thing is super triggering stuff that feels too hard. So what is the conclusion, the metacognition that you have about things that feel too hard? I can't do things that feel too hard. So if you're someone who says, I can't do things if they feel too hard, I can only do things that feel normally hard. That's a very dangerous game, because now you've given your brain and mind the ammo to keep you stuck. Because if your mind doesn't want to do it, it's going to make it feel hard. Y'all get that? So this is a really interesting piece of research. So when someone is going through withdrawal and they're addicted to a biological substance, if they have a very powerful craving and they give into it, their cravings get worse over time. The more you resist cravings actually lead to worsening cravings, which may sound weird. And what's going on there? Let's understand this. So my body wants alcohol. Let's say I'm addicted to alcohol. And in this case, when my body wants alcohol, it knows exactly what it's doing, because alcohol withdrawal can be lethal. if you are really dependent on alcohol and you quit cold turkey, your brain can start to have seizures. And at the end of a seizure, the reason that alcohol withdrawal is lethal, at the end of the seizure, there's about a 4-second window that can induce cardiac asystole, can actually shut off your heart. And then people can die. So when you're addicted to alcohol and your body is like, we need a drink, it knows what it's talking about. And then your dumbass comes along, it's like, no more drinking. Screw you, body. We are going to get healthy. And the body's like, you're going to kill us, bro. And so the body induces a craving. And then you resist the craving. And then it makes you crave more because it needs it. And then you resist that. And it craves more. And then finally you give in. And now our body realizes, okay, this dumbass, this is the level of craving it takes to keep us alive. And the next time that you try to quit, it's going to jump straight to the high level of craving. It's going to ignore these like low and medium level things. Right? It's like trying to talk to a deaf person. At the beginning, you're like, hey, can I get your attention? Or someone who's hard of hearing. Then you're like, hey. And then eventually you're like, yo. You figure out what level of signal you need to get the behavior that you want. And the body does the same thing. And so if you're trying to overcome cravings, you've got to do one of two things. Either you give in right away or you never give in. Don't piddle around for a little while and then give in, because that's going to make the cravings worse. And so if you're someone who like struggles with stuff being hard, you need to understand this principle. That your body may learn, your brain, your mind may learn that, okay, if I make things feel hard, then they're not going to do them. And then everything will start to feel harder. And then everything in life feels really hard. And why is that? It's because your mind is trying to get you to not do anything. And then you may wonder, well, why would my mind do that? And the reason for that is because when you try something, things fail. It's not worth the effort. It's a lot of effort. You don't get anything anyway. And if you've had a couple of those experiences where you gave 100%, you didn't get anything in return, your mind forms a conclusion. Effort's not worth it, bro. Effort's not worth it, girl. So I'm going to keep you from wasting your energy by making things feel hard. It's looking out for you. It's trying to protect you from wasting your time. And you're not wasting your time, but you're not spending it towards anything useful anyway. Right? So then you get stuck. Where you're like, you have one of these lives where like everything's hard, but like you kind of don't do anything anyway. How do you unlearn that? Very good question. So like I said, when things feel hard, you either give in to them right away or you're going to ignore it 100%. So you pick like one thing that feels impossible and you're going to fucking do it. No matter what. And your mind is like, but it's not going to work. And it's like, hey, it's not like we're going to do anything anyway. And someone's saying, just do it. Don't just do all of it. But by all means, just do one thing. Right? And muster every ounce of willpower you have to do that one thing. It's not just do it. It is exhaust your stores to get one thing done. Because when we say just do it, we make it sound easy. It's not easy. It's like we're going to have our last stand. And we're going to be exhausted at the end of it, but we're going to do this. Just exhaust all your energy is correct. Yes. That feels really hard. Yes, it does. And it's okay for things to feel hard. You're going to be tired either way. You're going to be tired at the end of 4 hours of doom scrolling or 6 minutes of doing something. You can doom scroll for 3 hours and 54 minutes when you're done with your 6 minutes of effort. Go for it. Can you do a Q&A stream? How about now? Rebecca or Rebecca? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do questions, okay? So this is what I want y'all to do. We're going to do different kind of questions today. Don't just ask any question. I want you to ask the question, think about it we're going to give you all like 60 seconds to think. And think about the question that is the most important question that you can ask right now. So case in point, Lone Fox SC it's an AMA then? Here's my question. Ever had to poop on the ground? I did it in the desert. And as much as I love that question, I really do love it. And I'm not just saying that. It's a great question. And I think this person was typing this as I was saying, take a moment to think about your questions. Okay? Okay, so I see, okay, I'm going to go through these, okay? Okay. All right, so, these are good. Let's speed run some of this stuff. Okay. So Namaste Geek is asking, how do I stop worrying about getting older and not achieving my goals? So I want y'all to pay attention to what the goal of this question is. How do I stop worrying? It's not, how do I achieve my goals? Right? And therein lies the problem. So the basic problem is that when we think about the problems in our life, we don't actually think about fixing the problems. We try to fix the emotions that come with the problems. How do I stop feeling frustrated? How do I stop worrying? How do I stop worrying when I go to the party? How do I stop worrying about not achieving my goals? And so if you sort of think about it, what's your goal? It's to stop worrying. It's not to achieve your goals. And now we understand why people doom scroll and get addicted to substances. Because if your goal is to stop worrying and take the worry away, well, fuck, you can get high. Watch some stuff, some cat videos. That'll make the worry go away. And so if your goal is to stop worrying, there are a lot of things that your brain, and especially everyone who makes anything that has anything to do with one of these, is really good at helping you stop worry. Your goal is, I want to stop worrying. All the app developers, Google and Amazon and everybody out there is like, hey, do we have a solution for you? We're going to take all your worries away. It's going to be lit, bro. It's going to be awesome. Just unlock me, baby. All your worries will be gone. So it's a beautiful question, but the question itself is wrong. The real question, and I know it sounds kind of weird to say the question is wrong, but it is. I'm not trying to be an ass here, but stopping worrying is not going to actually lead to a fulfilling life. So the interesting thing, the other reason the question is wrong is because it doesn't work. So the real way to stop worrying is to actually achieve your goals, right? So once you achieve a couple goals in life, then you don't have to worry about the rest of life. And you say, but I have other goals. No, but it's different, right? Because once you achieve a couple of goals, you start to develop some confidence and you're like, okay, I can do this. And then you look at the rest of your life and then you say, okay, I can't achieve everything. And you're like, yeah, you're right. Then there's some amount of hurt with that, but I can do what I can do. And then eventually, if you go on that path, you'll be content with not achieving all of your goals. And if you are content with not achieving all of your goals, then you'll stop worrying about them. Does that make sense? Okay, how to be confident? Great question. So, people do not understand what confidence is. Once you understand what it is, it becomes easier to figure out how to do it. People think that confidence comes from success. It does not come from success. Serial success does not lead to confidence. It leads to imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome, for example, like I saw more imposter syndrome. So I went to Tufts University School of Medicine. And then I did my psychiatry training at Harvard Medical School. I saw way more imposter syndrome at Harvard than I did at Tufts. And why is that? The more successful you are, and if you have a meteoric rise to success, you're like, I don't know how I got here. Do I really deserve to be here? Everyone else around me seems to be really like they deserve to be here, but like, I'm not even sure. Confidence doesn't come from success. Confidence comes from surviving failure. And if you look at a child, you'll understand this. How does a child learn to walk? They don't develop confidence by walking 10 steps. They develop confidence by walking one step, stumbling and falling, and realizing that they're no longer hurt. They're not hurt. Oh, I fell. Nothing bad happened. Then they can afford to take another shaky step, and they can stumble there. So confidence comes from failure happening and you surviving it, which is why kids who have loving and supportive parents develop confidence. It's not because they're successful. It's because mom and dad are there to catch me if I fall. And the world is fundamentally not a dangerous place, and I can afford to screw up. So the people who struggle to find confidence are the ones who learn the lesson, I cannot afford to screw up. Then you become paralyzed. Then the world is a dangerous place that's full of doubt and concern and anxiety provoking. So being confident isn't about succeeding. It's actually about failing. I mean, that's how I became confident. I just failed all the way to the bottom of everything. I was like nothing. 26 years old, crappy GPA, no job, no resume. I just sucked. And then I started to bounce back a little bit. And I was like, you know what? My life was crap. Everything, I was at the bottom of the barrel, no money. Even somewhat, I was like bumming with my girlfriend at the time. She was like supporting me financially and I was like living with her, right? Couldn't even afford rent. Couldn't afford groceries. Had no money, no prospects. Crappy GPA. Graduated from college a couple years ago. 3-year gap. And where does my confidence come from? Hey, I survived that. And if I can survive that, I can survive this. So as setbacks start to happen, I start to deal with them with confidence. It's like, it's not that bad. That's where it comes from. It comes from being at the bottom, not being at the top. Okay. Man, these are so good. All right, thank you for thinking. Okay, let's talk about dharma. Someone's asking, how do I find my dharma? So dharma is the Sanskrit word for duty. And the key thing about dharma is it allows us to choose the hard things. So if you look at a lot of the questions that people ask, they're like, how do I do something that's hard? How do I do something that's anxiety provoking? How do I do something if it may not work? How can I put myself out there? So in life, we have things that are easy and things that are hard. And generally speaking, our brain chooses the easy thing over the hard thing. There's one principle that allows us to choose the hard thing over the easy thing, and that is dharma or duty. To give you all a simple example, if someone points a gun at me, I will be scared and I will run away because I'm not a good Texan and I won't whip out my own. Right? Now, there's a whole different story if someone points a gun at my child, because then suddenly I'm stepping into the path of the gun. And so the same stimulus, which means pain and suffering and death, in one case, I'm running away from it, and in one case, I'm stepping into it. What's the difference? Dharma or duty. So the key thing is that if you have difficulty doing hard things in life, you must find your dharma, because dharma will make you choose the hard things. And if you kind of think about it, right, as you hear people who put their lives together, what's the main thing that everyone needs to put their life together? A good reason. Oh, I had a heart attack and I realized that, like, I need to take care of myself. They have a good reason. And so then the question is, okay, great, Dr. K, how do I find my dharma? So this is what's tricky. Couple of things. The first is that dharma is intrinsically linked to karma or karma. So your duty is by definition determined by your circumstances. So for example, like, what is my duty? My duty, I think, is to disseminate the knowledge that I was given. Super lucky. Despite the fact that I suck at life and did nothing to deserve it, I got to spend 7 years studying to become a monk and 8 years becoming a psychiatrist. And I got to study in some pretty cool places. Places like the Himalayas and places like Harvard Medical School. What am I supposed to do with that? I'm supposed to do something good because my circumstances are really amazing. I'm so lucky. Privilege isn't bad. It's what we do with privilege that's good or bad. So if you look at your life, your karma will tell you what your dharma is. Look at your life and decide what needs to be done given the circumstances of my life. It's not about what you want. It's about what needs to be done. When I look at my life objectively, if someone else had my life, what do they need to be doing? And this can be quite transformative because right now, when you try to put your life together, who are you trying to put it together for? You. If I put my life together, my life won't be so bad. That's what screws you. Because then when it comes down to actually doing the task, who are you doing this for? You're doing it for yourself. So if you're doing things for yourself, why would you put yourself through suffering when you can just play video games or binge watch something and bring the pleasure right now? If you're doing it for yourself, it's not worth the hassle because you can find pleasure and escape and whatever right here, right now. It's not worth all the effort because pleasure's at your fingertips. And this is why finding our duty in life has become so much harder. Because it's so easy. This has become so easy. So you can't put your life together for yourself. If you do, pleasure will always win. Instead, what you've got to figure out is, if I put together my life, how does that benefit anyone outside of me? What do I owe to this world and my fellow human beings? Or the planet or animals or whatever? What am I supposed to build? And as you start asking yourself that question, then your suffering becomes secondary to that bigger thing. And once your suffering becomes secondary, it'll no longer hold you back. So look at your karma and really start to ask yourself, what can I do in this situation right now that I think no one else can do? And that's what you should lean towards. Okay. Self-love isn't a reason good enough to try and thrive. That's what I'm doing. Ain't saying it's easy. Self-love is not a good enough reason to do much, to be honest. Now, we have to understand this. Striving for self-love means that you don't love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, what are you worth? What are you worth sacrificing for? Because to get to that point of loving yourself, you have to sacrifice so much, but you don't love yourself in the first place. So why would you sacrifice all that to get something way up there? Right? It doesn't work. The calculation doesn't work. Sacrificing is only worth it for the things that you love. And if you lack self-love, you're not worth the sacrifice. And this is what happens. Everyone chases this fantasy of self-love. If I keep doing this stuff, one day I will love myself. Oh my God. It just doesn't work. Should you learn to love yourself? Absolutely. Right, but the question is it a good enough reason? And the answer, honestly, is no. Usually. Do I try to help people get to self-love? Absolutely. Should you learn how to love yourself? Absolutely. But generally speaking, and this is what's the other really sad thing, it's really hard to learn how to love yourself. If you grow up in a situation where you are not loved and you craft self-love out of the rubble of your life, that's where narcissism comes from. It is a toxic construction of lack of love into an artificial self-love. The crazy thing is that self-love is actually given to you. Because we as human beings, especially as children, learn things from the people around us. So when someone loves you, they teach you how to self-love. Because they teach you what loving you looks like. And then as they take care of you, you will start taking care of yourself. So self-love is really hard to attain without someone's help. It can be done, but it's just hard. And self-love as a goal is usually not worth the trouble in your mind and in your brain, is what I'm saying. I think it's great, but when you really look at it, it's not worth it, right? And that's why you give up halfway. Or not even halfway. Like you're like, okay, I need to learn how to love myself. So let me read this self-help book. Self-help is boring. Let me queue up for a game of whatever. It's just not worth it because you don't deserve it. You don't deserve to love yourself because you don't love yourself. Right? And I don't know, I don't know if you guys are if I'm not saying you're not worthy of love and that you shouldn't self-love, but I feel like I'm saying asshole things, but this is true. If self-love was worth it, we wouldn't even be asking the question. Great. So Haunted is saying, I learned to love myself. Lost 77 pounds in 11 months. You go, my friend. That's awesome. I'm addicted to food. Can you give me advice? Sure. So let's understand why we get addicted to food. So there's all kinds of biological stuff, right? So the first thing is that when you eat certain kinds of food, let me think about this. Let me collect my thoughts, chat. We're going to talk about food addiction. Let me think. Will this get to YouTube? No one ever knows. Oh, how do I overcome fibromyalgia? I don't know if y'all caught this, but we did a deep dive into psychosomatic illness where we covered fibromyalgia. So definitely check that out on YouTube. And also, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today about avoiding suffering, understanding your dharma, all these things, if y'all want more on this stuff, this is all in Dr. K's guide. So we go into this stuff more in depth. So definitely check out Dr. K's guide if y'all want more information about all of this stuff. Okay. Okay. Let me think about food addiction. I'm just trying to remember a couple of scientific studies so I can quote this stuff properly. Okay. So when we're talking about addiction to food, okay, let me start over. So we can get addicted to all kinds of things. And I think food addiction is one of the trickiest ones because there is so much more going on than a standard addiction. So when we sort of think about a standard addiction, there's like a substance that we have a chemical dependency on, or even something like video games where there's like a lot of stuff going on. But food addiction is unique compared to other forms of addiction. And the reason is because our circuitry for food is very tied to our fundamental survival. So we have reinforcement mechanisms and all kinds of physiologic mechanisms that are tied to food, which can get hijacked by our addiction. So the first thing to understand is that we need food to survive. And how does our body teach us or get us to survive? It makes the experience of eating food pleasurable. Okay? Number one. So already we have the basic substance of that's not the right. So we already have the basic formula for an addiction right there, because any addictive substance does two things: gives us pleasure and takes away pain. Okay? So anything that's dopaminergic, we can get addicted to. Cell phones, video games, marijuana, alcohol, food. The problem is that food has other kinds of things going on. So the second thing about food, so just a couple things I've observed, is that a lot of times people who struggle with food addiction have difficulty sleeping. So they either have restless sleep, they wake up like not in a good headspace, or they have difficulty falling asleep. And so one of the reasons that some people get addicted to food is that they use food as a sleeping aid. So when we eat a lot, and we're talking about binging like ice cream, like 2,000 calories of ice cream, how is that even possible before you go to bed at night? What's going on there? What's going on is we eat a ton of ice cream, we're going to get a gigantic insulin spike. And then we're going to get the food coma of the century, which is exactly what you need to go to bed. So there is a correlation between being addicted to food and having difficulty sleeping. And this is what's so hard, is when we start to take away, if we try to treat a food addiction, we're going to create insomnia as a result. And that means that like fixing the problem is going to make a fundamental problem over here, because sleep is one of the three things that we need to survive: food, water, and sleep. We don't actually technically need clothing or shelter or love. We need food, water, and sleep. That's what we need to survive. So you can fix one fundamental problem by creating another. That's the second reason why people get addicted to food. The third thing that happens with food addiction is that, just like any other addiction, it starts to take away particular things. So once again, we can look at something like insulin. When I start to induce a insulin response, what insulin does is activates our parasympathetic nervous system. So it lowers our anxiety, induces a state of relaxation, makes us a little bit sleepy, slows down our thoughts. So I've also noticed that people who are anxious about stuff will get addicted to food, because food is a treatment for anxiety. Eat something, you'll feel better. So when I was like training at Mass General Hospital, one of the coolest things they taught me is when you're working in the emergency room and there's a patient who's like out of control, one of the best things you can do is offer them something to eat. So it's really interesting, right? Because when people are out of control, they're having a panic attack, or they're like high on cocaine or methamphetamine or whatever. In our day, it was K2. There was a big problem with K2 in Boston. And so just offer them something to eat. And it really does calm them down. Like, I don't know what's going on there. I think it has something to do with the physiology. Maybe it has something to do with the humanity of, hey, like, do you want to eat something? And oftentimes, if they're in the emergency room, they haven't eaten for a while. So there's something weird about the way that food affects our mind. So when we're dealing with food addiction, we also have to think a little bit about, if you want to get over food addiction, you have to fix the problems that food addiction fixes. And until you fix those problems, fixing the food addiction is going to create other problems. You need to find some way to manage your anxiety. You need to find some way to sleep. 2 or 3 other reasons why people get addicted to food. Next reason is that food takes away pain. right? So it reduces anxiety and stuff like that. But also the dopaminergic kind of surge that we get from eating particular things makes us like it changes like our amygdala and stuff like that. It kind of takes away pain. The other thing that we've sort of noticed, and I can't remember the precise research on this, there is some, let me think about this. I saw this. Give me a second. Okay, so there's something weird in the brain. So when we have a psychological hunger, physical food fixes it to a certain degree. And even if we think about the word, I'm hungry for love, why does your brain choose the word hunger when it comes to love? You can't eat love. You can't eat love and digest love and poop out love. Why do we use the word hunger? So there are some internal experiences that we describe as hunger, emotional hunger, hunger for love. And for some reason, the reason we choose that word is because the circuits in our brain that lead to psychological hunger, the circuits in our brain that lead to a psychological lack, actually are somehow tied to our like physical like sense of hunger. And so people will even say like, food is my love language. When we think about feeling loved, food is a part of it, right? And because we've been like evolutionary wired that way. Oh yeah, like mom's tortilla soup or grandma's like chicken and gravy or whatever, chicken and waffles. Like there's so much about emotions and food that are like tied together for evolutionary reasons. Home is where I get fed. Home is where I survive. Home is where I have love. So there's some really deep stuff in our brain that connects our psychological needs with our physical needs. There are even studies, and I'm blanking on the specific references, that show that as you psychologically need more stuff, physical food can satisfy those parts of the brain. And there's also a really interesting kind of correlation from this from Buddhist philosophy. So the Buddhists say that between heaven and earth, so the Buddhists say that between earth and hell, there's like this area in the middle. There's like a train station. And before you go all the way to hell, some people end up in this middle layer called the realm of hungry ghosts. And the realm of hungry ghosts is where souls go and they feel hungry all the time. And they eat and they eat and they eat and they never get satisfied. That's a special kind of hell. It's not quite as bad as the real hell, but it's a special kind of hell that really sucks. To eat and eat and eat and never get satisfied. And this is the experience of someone who has a food addiction. This is why we draw on some of these Buddhist principles to sort of think about hunger and what it means to be satisfied when we're treating people with food addiction. So the other thing about food addiction is that you need to satisfy your psychological needs as well. So if you are unloved, you need to fix that. And people may say, well, that's hard to fix. You're right. It is hard to fix. But if you really want to know how to fix a food addiction, that's a part of it, right? That's just true. And that's what makes food so much harder to treat, food addiction so much harder to treat. Our treatments are not as good. We don't have nearly as much research on food addiction. And why is that? It's because it's not just like alcohol or marijuana or like ketamine or this discrete chemical compound that goes to one part of your brain and turns it on. Food is so much more holistically wired and integrated into different parts of our brain. And if you really want to recover from food addiction, you have to understand which of these aspects it's doing, whether it's physiologic, whether you're talking about you become dependent on the insulin it releases because of the way that it slows down your mind and helps you go to sleep and helps you wake up kind of foggy. Or is it some kind of psychological need that you are fulfilling with food or covering with food in some way? Because those parts of your brain are connected. And then there's the standard stuff of taking away pain and giving you pleasure. And the other really interesting thing is that I think food addiction and anorexia are also very closely connected. And anorexia is really hard to treat But there's something really interesting about all of those circuits that get messed up with a food addiction also activate with anorexia in some way. Because we know, for example, that a history of trauma is correlated with anorexia. And anorexia is a situation where if you take kids who are anorexic, what you find early in their childhood is they have no control in their life. And there's one way they can get control, which is I get to control what comes into my body. That's the one domain where I'm not going to let anyone touch me. The rest of my life is falling apart, but I get to control what comes into my body. And people may wonder, they're like, but like, you know, as people get anorexic and they get to the point where they have electrolyte abnormalities and heart arrhythmias and they're literally dying from not eating. How is that possible? How does this person not see that they're dying? And that's because the more that your body tells you, hey, we're dying, the more it bludgeons you and the worse that you feel, the more in control you become. Because now you are controlling this tsunami of bodily desires. Every fiber of your being is yelling at you to eat something. Every person around you is yelling at you to eat something. The whole world is trying to get you to do something. But no, you are in control. And as the signals get louder and louder and louder, the amount of control that you feel and exert grows and grows and grows. The pressure of others just makes you stronger. And so there's something with that. And when I work with patients who are anorexic, I don't know exactly why. I'm happy to do some research and report back. Giving them love goes a long way. Giving them control goes a long way. And that's the real challenge with mental illness today, is that we think that the way to solve mental illness is treatment. And that's scientifically true. But if we really look at the lives of people who have overcome mental illness, it's way more than treatment. And I can say this as a psychiatrist, I don't deserve that much credit. It's not like someone comes into my office and 8 weeks later, they've spent 1 hour with me. They spent 8 hours and wow, their life is transformed. They have to start putting together every other aspect of their life. That's when people really become mentally healthy. Control can be defined as agency? Absolutely. How can what you shared about cravings be applied to something like vaping, trying to quit? My friends, if you're trying to quit vaping, you're screwed. So here's what they did with vaping. They came along with a vape and they said, hey, cigarettes are unhealthy because they have all these carcinogens. And so people were like, I know, I will give someone a device that has just the nicotine and very few of the carcinogens. And it'll be healthier. And then you know what happened? People didn't start vaping. Because being healthy is not the top priority of many people who are addicted to nicotine. It is not enough of a reason to get them to switch from cigarettes to nicotine. So what happened next? The vaping companies were like, this ain't working great. So what did they do? They increased the nicotine concentration. They changed a lot of stuff in there to actually make it, in my opinion, more addictive. And if you work for a vaping company and I am wrong, by all means, please let me know. And show me the science that shows that that's not the case. And so the problem with vaping is that we've used technology to increase the addictive potential, which is why there's, even though in the United States anyway, there's a decrease in smoking over time, but vaping is surging up, right? Because it's really concentrated nicotine. And so the addiction is actually harder to kick. If you want to quit vaping, a couple of things to consider. The first is that you need, so if y'all want to quit vaping, 2 things to understand, 3 things. So vaping does more than provide nicotine. And if you want to quit vaping, you have to replace all of the things that vaping gives you. So the first thing that it gives you is nicotine. This is why we do things like nicotine patches, nicotine gum. You have to give your body the physical replacement to reduce the craving. But the success of nicotine gum and nicotine patches is not 100%. And then the question becomes why? Because if you're just addicted to nicotine, why don't the patches and gum work at a 100% success rate? I think they have less than a 50% success rate. I don't know the exact number. It doesn't seem to work that great. And that's because vaping does two other things for you. The second is that there is a physical habit that comes with vaping. And so I know it sounds kind of weird, but there was a great general practitioner, primary care physician that I worked with that showed me one really cool trick that he gave to his patients who were smoking cigarettes. And he noticed that there's like a tactile thing. There's like this ritual of like pulling out a cigarette and lighting it, and like there's something with your hands. So he started giving his patients sunflower seeds, which is something that a patient figured out. And there's something about like doing something with your hands that somehow increased his patient's ability to quit nicotine. And with vaping as well, there's a lot of stuff with like breathing and doing stuff with your hands. That needs to be replaced as well. So I'd say do something with your hands. I don't care if you whittle wood, whether you crack open sunflower seeds, do something with your hands when you feel like vaping. The third thing that you need to do, and this is the hardest thing, vaping gives you a break. A psychological break from your day very often. And Lord knows we need psychological breaks from our day. We need a chance to step outside and like get the hell away from this and this and this. We need some way to get away from people and notifications and all that kind of stuff. And the last thing that makes vaping really hard, and this is the only one that I don't know how to fix, this is really the one that you got to muscle through, is that vaping makes other things more fun. I can doom scroll on my phone. It's like a 6 out of 10. Maybe even 5 out of 10. If I vape while I'm doom scrolling on my phone, it's a 7 out of 10. So the reason that vaping is hard to give up is because it makes a lot of other mundane activities a little bit more enjoyable. I can enjoy a cup of coffee, and then there's coffee and cigarette. I can go grab a beer with my friends, and there's beer and cigarette, or beer and vape. I can go up to a rooftop patio, and I can vape. And so the hardest thing about vaping is that it just makes everything a little bit more fun. It's like you've got two choices in life: life plus or regular life. So it's hard. Don't start vaping yet. Every time, I mean, we got to be honest, right? Like, the reason that people get addicted to stuff is because in some way life is better with the stuff. That's why it gets addicted. So you can unlock Life Plus, by the way. The other way you can unlock it is through meditation. But that is harder. Because it's harder. It's just harder than vaping. Is there a God mode for life? Absolutely. I think that's moksha or enlightenment. That is... Yeah, meditation is the F2P option. Not always. Sometimes you got to pay for it, chat. How do you learn integrals? I'd say learn derivatives first. Are you enlightened? I'm just as enlightened as you are. European tea. Have you ever tried nicotine, or is it knowledge without experience? I've tried nicotine once in my life. And now that I've answered that question, here come all the questions of Dr. K. Give us a detailed history of your drug use, please. I actually just tried nicotine in the last year or two. First time in my life. Are you a writer? We have a book coming out soon, which y'all will hear about. You're going to buy it? It's a book for parents, chat. So y'all may wonder, why did I write a book for parents? You guys want to know really why I wrote a book for parents instead of a book for y'all? The people whom I love so much? So I have a choice. I can try to fix y'all, or what I can do is help a whole generation of parents fix some of the things that created y'all's problems in the first place. And so even though in a lot of ways I was loath to write this book, it is not a book that I was the most excited about. It is the book that I thought would do the most good. Are you doomed already? No. I've spent 1,000 times as much effort or more working with y'all than I have working with parents. But, they need help. Because here's the thing. The other reason is, I don't know if y'all get this, but y'all know how life is hard for us, millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Alpha, whatever. Life is hard for us. But it's like the 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, things are not getting better. Things are getting worse. Technology is getting more addictive. And if y'all want to know, actually, one of the most damaging technologies out there is not what you think. So I sort of discovered this recently. One of the most harmful things for your brain is actually Google. It's not TikTok, not Instagram. I mean, I'm sure that those are bad in some ways, but it's actually Googling stuff. And y'all may wonder, how on earth is it that Googling stuff is damaging to your brain? So I was talking to a friend of mine who's a teacher. And what the teacher was noticing is kids nowadays can't do anything. First of all, they have no critical thinking skills. Second of all, they get bored really easily and they can't focus on anything for more than 20 minutes. And third of all, their memory sucks. Kids nowadays. And so I was talking to him about that. And he actually told me this hilarious story. He said that he gave an extra credit assignment or extra credit question, which was supposed to be easy points for everybody in his class. And it was, which of the following experiments did we do in class? And you just have to circle the right answer. And some kid in his class Googled the question and picked some other, whatever the top answer was in Google. They didn't circle what they did in class. And so I sort of found this myself, that Googling stuff led to my own brain decaying. So when I was in med school, because I started med school in 2010. And when I started med school, cell phones were just smartphones were really becoming a part of society. And so as I'd go through the hospital and people would come up with questions, right? Oh, this patient needs this, or which medication should I give? I started Googling a lot of stuff, searching for a lot of stuff. And what I noticed in med school is when I had a question in my mind and I searched for it right away, it went into my mind and it immediately disappeared afterward. And so I started doing this thing. I noticed that anything that I looked up right away is something that I would never remember. So it's what the hell is going on here? So I started writing down all of my questions instead of looking them up right away. And then I would go home and I would pull out my laptop or whatever, and I'd look up each question like in sequence, and I'd jot them down as part of my notes or whatever. And it worked really well. So if we look at how Googling stuff screws us up, first thing that it does is it removes all critical thinking, right? So our mind gets better at what it does. So if I stop taking the stairs, my legs are going to get weak. If I start riding the elevator every single day, my legs will become deconditioned. And when I start Googling answers all the time, my critical thinking, I never have to figure anything out because I'm just going to watch it or Google it, right? And then the answer is given to me. I never have to exercise critical thinking. Second thing is that Google gives me instant gratification. I don't have to spend time looking anything up. And so my brain's ability to like focus on a task for an extended period of time disappears when I get instant gratification and I have my answer right away. The third thing is when I have Google at my fingertips, I don't need to remember anything. Because the speed of Google, this is so amazing. Google is so good at finding information that it's almost as fast as thought. The only reason finding an answer on Google is slower than thinking, remembering it, recalling it, is because it takes time to type. And especially if you're using one of these. It's faster than your mind. And so why do you need to remember things when all of the answers are at your fingertips? And there are even some people, and I'm actually one of them, I've made this argument at times, that have advocated for less memorization. Because why do we need to memorize things when all the information is on our fingertips? And even when I was in med school, people were like, you don't have to focus too much on memorizing, focus on understanding, because you're going to have all the answers at your fingertips. And so as we stop using our memory gets worse. And so I know it sounds kind of weird, but like, Google set out to do something amazing and they did an awesome job. And I don't fault them for it. They're like, we want to take all of the information in the world and put it at your fingertips. How awesome is that? Back when I was growing up, I had these things called Encyclopedia Britannicas. You guys even know what that is? So I had this set of volumes that I have to pull out. I have to look stuff up. And I have to dig through the answer in books. And sometimes I used to go to the library and I'd like check books out and I'd like look at them to try to find answers for stuff. We had to go hunting. We had to be our own search engine back in the day. And it's really awesome that Google has made all this information available to our fingertips. I'm sure it's helped thousands, millions of patients because now doctors can look stuff up very easily. I used it all the time. I used UpToDate, but same, very similar. So we got to be careful because if you're Googling stuff all the time, you're not going to be stretching your memory. You're going to be taking the elevator when it comes to memory. You're going to be taking the elevator when it comes to critical thinking. And you're going to get instant gratification. You don't need to focus on anything because you get the answer right away. So if you want to improve your critical thinking, don't Google stuff. Think about it first. And for parents too, like this is what I recommend to parents is like, when your kid asks you a question or has a question, don't let them Google it right away. Have them try to figure out the answer first. That's it, right? And it's bizarre because sometimes people will ask me like, should I stop my kid from using TikTok? And it's like, yeah, maybe you should stop using your kid from TikTok. But sometimes now I'll even advocate you should also keep them from Googling stuff reflexively. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm saying don't just default to Googling everything because it'll screw up your memory, it'll screw up your critical thinking, and it'll screw up your attention. Let them work for it, just like climbing the stairs, and your legs will become stronger. Your mind will become stronger. One really interesting thing is that a lot of the deleterious effects of technology, so technology is screwing us up in a lot of ways, but I think actually being a gamer is one of the ways that we actually are protecting ourselves against the deleterious effects of technology. And people are like, but don't we get addicted to video games? Yeah, you can get addicted, but I think games are actually really good in a lot of ways too. So games do teach things like critical thinking. DOD, U.S. Department of Defense, commissioned a study about 10 years ago that found that the soldiers who play video games have a higher fluid IQ than people who don't. And what is fluid IQ? Fluid IQ is the ability to solve problems when you do not have experience. So problem solving as a doctor is different if I've been trained as a doctor, because I have a bunch of information, knowledge, and experience that I can use to solve a problem. But gamers are good at solving stuff with just like raw strategic thinking. And I almost wonder if like that buffers us against some of these other things. Isn't IQ BS? No, I don't think so. Why do y'all think IQ is BS? I'm confused. Someone's asking, please do a yoga course for the guide. You explain things so well. So we do have a yoga course in the guide. It's Dr. K's Guide to Meditation. It's all the parts of yoga that you won't learn in a yoga studio. Or, I mean, in good ones you will. We have something. But yeah, thanks for the feedback. I'll look into it for sure. IQ is BS because each child is gifted? I'm confused about... Yeah, okay, so hold on a second. So if we're saying like IQ tests are BS on the internet, I'll completely agree. But I think that like there's good evidence that if you take someone who has like, you know, had intrauterine anoxia and their brain is not formed properly, and you take someone who, you know, has a normal brain, that there are going to be like differences in their like intellectual capabilities. I don't think that that is BS. I think there's like overwhelming evidence of that, right? We know that some human beings are capable of more stuff than other human beings. I think the biggest problems with IQ are, first of all, it's a stupid thing to be proud of. If you're proud of your IQ, that's idiotic. Because IQ is RNG. You didn't do anything to be smart. Literally. It's determined primarily, probably even before you're born, and to a certain degree based on a couple of experiences. Okay? So like the biggest problem with IQ is that people are proud of it. Like that's silly. Like the second biggest problem with IQ is that people who are proud of it then develop the idea that things that you are proud of are things that have nothing to do with your actions. So then those people get screwed. We just had a YouTube video about this, why lonely kids are smart. We kind of talk about this. And there may be some biases. I think the third problem with IQ is that people think that it is like, since it's the most popular measure, we think it can be used to solve all problems. But even having high IQ comes with some disadvantages. So there's a really interesting trial called the Insight trial that showed that people's understanding of their debilitating medical conditions correlated with their suicidality. So there's some evidence that having high IQ is even correlated with like increased suicidality. And so it doesn't win everything for you. I think the other problem with IQ is that we think it's sufficient to fix all of our problems, which is really devastating. You're smart. Therefore, it shouldn't be hard for you. False. IQ is what it is. It's not a catch-all to fix everything. Now, it is a general problem-solving capability, but I think this is where stuff like EQ comes in, where I think that I've seen more success correlated with high EQ than I have with high IQ. And literally, my IQ didn't change from failing out of college to like being where I am today. Doctor, psychiatrist, content creator, call it whatever you want, entrepreneur, whatever. What changed was my EQ. I'm just as smart or stupid as I was back then. What changed is my capacity for self-awareness and my ability to like understand and control my emotions and channel my emotions for success. And that's where like we try to focus on. So one thing that we measure in coaching is EQ. So we've tried to design our coaching program to improve EQ. And that's also where like group coaching kind of comes in. So like group coaching, I'm pretty sure will boost EQ because there's a lot of like self-awareness and like interaction with other people and stuff like that. Oh, you can absolutely raise EQ. I think EQ is way easier to raise than IQ is. Is EQ not inherited like IQ is? Probably a portion of it is, but I think it's way more malleable. Or we have just discovered techniques to raise it way better than IQ. One of the two. Okay, let me show y'all. All right, have y'all, I think you can get an EQ questionnaire on our platform, but I'm not 100% sure about this. So we developed our own EQ questionnaire. Let me see if I can find. Oh boy. This is going to be hard for me to find. Okay. Okay, here we go. Draft of HG Emotional Intelligence Questionnaire. Okay. So, as y'all know, or maybe y'all don't know, we here at HG do a lot of different things. We do this, where we talk to y'all. We have a coaching program that helps about 3,000 people a week. We also do research. So we have 7, maybe there's some of them are done. We have 7 IRB approved research studies that we're running right now. And part of the reason we do research is we're trying to figure out like, okay, Dr. K can get up here and I can say like, oh, look, listen to me. I'm so smart. I know neuroscience. I know spirituality. I've read these books. I'm doctor. Listen to me. But I can know all that stuff. It doesn't actually mean that any of the stuff that we do helps you. Do y'all understand that? Like expertise is not the same as outcomes. Huge problem in our society today is that a lot of people out there don't measure their outcomes in any way. So we have a pretty robust measurement system of outcomes so that we can figure out how to scientifically help you the best. So one of the things that we noticed is that we made this observation that people who do stuff like group coaching seem to be improving in their EQ. And then we tried to figure out, okay, like how do we measure EQ in a succinct and easy way? So I think we've got a research study right now where we're trying to validate our EQ questionnaire. But EQ is composed of a couple of things. The first is motivation, correlates with EQ. Self-regulation correlates with EQ. Self-awareness correlates with EQ. Empathy correlates with EQ. And social skills correlate with EQ. These are the 5 domains that do not get touched by IQ. And if you kind of think about it, right? Like, so if you're a smart kid and you struggle with motivation, you know that IQ is not sufficient to fix that. You know that social skills are not sufficient. In fact, IQ can backfire when it comes to social skills. And it does. Because when you have a high IQ and you're socially rusty, you try to solve all your problems using cognition instead of feeling. So there are 5 domains of EQ that we try to focus on. So another aspect of like, and that's what we try to do. So when we boost EQ, we'll teach emotional regulation skills. Because if you think about your ability to manage your emotions is part of your emotional quotient. Your awareness of your emotions is your emotional quotient. Awareness is not the same as analysis. It's the ability to notice, the ability to observe. And oftentimes people with high IQ are so analytically in their head that they're observantly poor. And this is why they struggle in social situations. Because they're up here all the time instead of like actually observing the outside world. And why does that happen? It's because as I feel anxious, anxiety becomes a problem to solve. And so turn on the CPU. Go, 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 go. And it's just inefficient. So we develop these EQ domains. This is what we measure. And what we've sort of found is that like understanding your emotions is one part of the EQ domain, but increasing awareness, focusing on social skills, focusing on motivation. And this is all emotional. So if we think about what motivates us in life, it's emotions, right? If intellect was sufficient to motivate you, if you figured out that something was logically good for you, you'd wake up and you'd do it the next day. What motivates us? Emotions. I don't feel like doing it today. What is that? That's an emotion. You're like, no, it's not. That's tiredness. Tiredness is what we feel when we are colorblind to the emotions that are driving the tiredness. Tiredness isn't a physiological state. I mean, it can be, but it's an emotional state. And the reason we call it tired is because we're colorblind. We don't know what it is, so we just feel tired. I'll give you all an example. I got a call earlier today. I picked up the phone. I saw who was calling, and I felt tired. Oh my God, this person is calling. I don't want to answer the phone. That's not physiologic, my friends. That is emotional. Oh my God, I have to go to work today. I just slept 8 hours and I had a nice, nutritious breakfast and I am feeling exhausted. It's not physiologic, it's emotional. Right? And this is where, like, you know, so part of the reason we developed the group coaching curriculum is because some of this stuff is actually hard to work on one-on-one. And so if y'all want to boost your EQ, I mean, we don't have data that says that group coaching will boost EQ. We don't have that data. That's what we believe. So we've seen enough observations that we've seen enough progress in measurable domains like depression, anxiety, life purpose, reduction in unhealthy technology behavior. We've seen all that. But the question is, like, how does one thing like group coaching correlate to all of these improvements? Because we're not fixing depression, or it's not like a group that focuses on depression or anxiety. So the way it's designed, and we did this on purpose, right, is we sort of looked at, okay, what are the features, what are the core skills that we can improve that will help someone solve their own problems? That's what we built. And that's why people get confused. They're like, okay, I have this problem. Does it fix this problem? It's like, technically no, but it improves that problem. Because what we're helping you do is be a better human. Because that's like my belief. Like, if you want to fix all the problems in your life, you don't need to fix the problems. You need to become a better human. The problem is that most of the solutions out there are not about becoming a better human. They're about fixing a particular problem. How to set boundaries. How to get promoted. How to make $1 million. How to write a book. All of those things are being a better human. You're going through life using this instrument. How many hours of education have you spent on this? You go to science class, you go to math class. Someone asked a question earlier about how do I learn how to do integrals? In school, they teach us how to do integrals, but they don't teach us how to be self-aware or have decent social skills or understand what we're feeling. Yeah, and so then people will say, like, how to have great point, Weeknies, how to have motivation, how to be more social. And you'll get these lists from people, right? Of like, do these 16 things and then you will be more social. And those can help. I'm not saying that they don't. But the reason that we see global improvement is because we try to make people better humans. And that's what I learned, like, in India. I was like, holy crap. Like, why did I decide to become a monk? It's because they taught me how to be a better human. I was like, this is OP. Here I was trying to solve all of these 1,000 problems when I didn't realize that the instrument itself is flawed. Right? It's like, you can go through life in two ways. You can either upgrade your PC or you can do all kinds of other like random things to make stuff on your PC work. But if your video card is outdated and your RAM is outdated and your hard drive is too small, no matter what you do in life, it's gonna be hard. So what we really try to help people do, and this is what's wild, is you can actually do this. You can just upgrade your PC. You can just become a better human being. You can develop self-awareness skills. Right? So it's like changing the instrument that you use. Then everything becomes easy. Yeah, you know, it's funny. Someone saying, quoting, that guy at Bethesda who was like, Starfield is optimized for PC. You need to upgrade your PC. That's actually what made me think of that analogy. So like mind meld there. Todd Howard, yeah. I read that earlier and I was like, oh, let's use that analogy. Do you have PC upgrade money? Probably. But my PC is now, I built this PC before I started streaming. I spent money on a PC specifically to start streaming. So now it's like 4 years old, I think, or maybe even older, maybe 5. No one said life was easy. I'm just saying life is way harder unless you upgrade your PC. And what I'm saying is that it's inefficient to keep on solving problems out there. If like, it's like upgrading your, I don't know what the right analogy is. It's like, like all these games like Age of Empires and stuff like that. Like you can upgrade your like basic town level and then you get all these passive buffs. That's what we try to do for y'all. Is like upgrade your basic thing. Like we're not saying that you don't need to do all that stuff. You need to mine more minerals or Vespine gas and build all these structures out there and like research this tech and like whatever. Like all that stuff is still true. What we're saying is just like give yourself those sweet, fat passive buffs by like upgrading your core structure. But that's what we don't do. We're like sitting at tier 1 and we're like out there like mass churning out like pikemen when like other people are out there with like bombers and navies, and we're still at like the tier 1 tech. And so y'all work twice as hard, 10 times as hard, and like you actually do pretty good. I even remember I quit playing Civ 3 because this happened. So I was playing this game of Civ 3, and there was like one nation that was just like 1 square. They had like an island that was 1 square, and they had a city on it, and like 1,000 or 2,000 years after the game started or whatever, they were still at like tier 1 tech. So they had like literally a bunch of like spearmen. Like just they had some kind of weird, I don't know if it was a bug or what, but every turn for like 2,000 years, they were just churning out spearmen. And then I had a bomber. And so I flew my bomber to try to conquer this little island nation, right? Because yay for colonialism. And then however the calculation of like combat works, right? It's like each spearman is worth like 10 power and a bomber is worth like 150 or whatever. And my spearman defeated the bomber. And I was like, this game is dumb. How is this? This is stupid. I just quit the game and I never played it again. Yeah, Van Pax is like, you're that civil. Yeah, so this is the thing. Everyone's like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. I have no motivation. No, you guys aren't exhausted because you suck at life. You're exhausted because you're playing the game of life very inefficiently. If you just upgrade your tech tier, if we unleash you into the world, you will just knock it out of the park. One other example of this. So if you're like a gamer and you're like, oh my God, my life is so hard. Like I'm exhausted all the time and I suck at life. No, dude, you just haven't been unleashed yet. Let me explain this to y'all. I graduated from college with a 2.5 GPA and decided to put my life together. Went to med school, became a psychiatrist, became successful, got married and all this stuff. I tried to climb MMR in Dota. It is objectively harder to become an immortal rank player, in my opinion, I guess so subjectively, it's like literally harder. I was like, this is harder than putting my life together. Do y'all realize how awesome you are? Look at the everyone's like, I'm a degenerate gamer. All I do is play video games all day. Dude, you queue up for a game that hits you in the nuts emotionally because your teammates suck. And you go through so much suffering. And you look at guides on the internet, you watch YouTube, you watch streamers play, and you grind for hours and hours and hours. Do y'all realize how many hours it takes to get to like challenger tier in LoL or whatever it is in Valorant or Diamond or whatever? Y'all put forth so much mental energy and so much emotional suffering. And the thing about doing well in school is that if you study hard enough, you can get 100. The real crazy thing about being a gamer is there is no amount of effort that you can put in to win a game, because there's some dumbass on the other side of the computer who is working just as hard as you, and you can still lose. And yet y'all still climb. The rest of life is a joke compared to climbing ranks. Seriously. You just have to like show up every day and exert some degree of effort, and you will be rewarded. It's not like gaming, where it's like, oh crap, I queued up, I'm in this game, and I got saddled with 4 noobs. Your back hurts from all the carrying that you're doing. So seriously, I'm not like, the tricky thing is that, you know, it's hard, right? Like I know it's not easy to just do that in life, because the main thing with gaming is that on some level it's fun. But even then, I mean, come on, man. How much fun is gaming? Like, some of it is fun, but most of it isn't. If you are really good at a video game, you don't even enjoy it most of the time. What you enjoy is getting good. And so just turn that, unleash yourself to any other dimension. If you put forth 10% of the effort in something in real life, you will knock it out of the park. And you're saying, but it's hard to put forth effort in real life. Yeah, you're right. That's why, like, I'm not even telling you to put forth 50, just put 10%. 10% of your gaming time or effort. Put it into something, anything. And just do it. Try it. Try it for like 3 months and see what you get. It'll be crazy. And we see this like with y'all that show up on like Discord and stuff. You know, like we just give you a place to like show up and put forth like 5 to 10% effort. And y'all do amazing. And that's the thing. When we have like good outcomes here at HG, like we don't have good outcomes because we're great. We have good outcomes because you're great. We have good outcomes because we just let you do you. We just help you be you. Like we just point you in a direction. We help you stay in one direction. That's really all we do. And then y'all knock it out of the park. You get that? Like we can't take a bunch of chicken shit and turn it into gold. There's got to be something good in there. Like seriously, do y'all get that? Like outcomes at this scale, because we're not like a medication. It's different. If we're like an oncology drug that just goes into your body and kills the cancer, then you can take credit for that. We're not injecting you with something that's like, you know, Chad plus IV solution or whatever that just like magically transforms you. Like we're not even giving you anything into your body. There's no medications, no supplements, nothing. We're just taking you and we're like having you stay focused in one general direction for like some amount of time. That's it. Gigamycin. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Landot, for giving me a drug suffix. Actually, if we're talking about mycin, those are usually antibiotics. So it's probably like noob mycin. Right? or beta-mycin. Kills the beta inside you. Now, this could be mean. I'm not sure for those of y'all that are anime degenerates that this is the same. Because it's not clear to me. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying it's not clear to me that the same amount of effort that it goes to. I don't know how to climb to the top of anime. If y'all are just like watching a bunch of anime all day, that may not work. I don't know. Okay? I don't know. I just don't know, right? It's a different skill set. Okay. How does EQ correlate with motivation? The better your EQ is, the easier it is to find and harness motivation. Okay. We got to run, chat. But thanks for coming today. We covered a lot of stuff. Healthy Weeb GG. Hey, so actually, before I go, let me ask y'all, now my turn for a question, okay, chat? So we're trying to figure out what's next for us. So what I'm trying to think about is what do y'all... So we're thinking about doing something like building on our platform or even building something like an app. So just to give y'all an example, we had a couple of really good community events. And y'all are talking about EQ, right? So we had a community event called Right in the Fields, which is probably one of our most, if not the most successful community event. I think like 15,000 people participated. And it was really about an EQ boosting event. So we had different things like we're going to teach you about emotions. We're going to focus on things like alexithymia. You're going to learn to notice your own emotions. And then we also did cool stuff where you can put in a journal entry and you can read someone else's journal entry anonymized and try to guess what emotion they're feeling. So it's like a way to like level up empathy. So that worked really good for that particular thing, but we're not sure what to build. And then the other problem with something like building an app is like building an app is expensive. So the question that I've got is like, do y'all want something like that? And secondly, will you pay for it? Right? And it's like, we can decide, like if we get some amount of capital and we can deploy it in different areas. So let's do a poll. And if you guys don't, whatever y'all want to do is what y'all want to do. We're just asking. So we've been able to do pretty well so far. And so, by the way, for those of y'all that did Right in the Fields or have looked at our resource packs and stuff like that, all that stuff is because people have supported us financially. So we're grateful for that. And like, we'll take whatever money y'all give us and we're going to build whatever we can with it. But at some point, we have to figure out, okay, so the app would focus on probably stuff like skills building, because that's the one thing that we don't really do. So here's the poll. So y'all tell me, what do y'all think we should do? Yeah, so I can be more specific. So here's the situation. If we look at what Healthy Gamer is good at, we teach you things. And then we have services like coaching. So we can help you achieve your goals, which works really well. We can teach you stuff, but there's no DIY level. There's no like, okay, Dr. K, you say EQ is important. How do I level my EQ? Because if you sign up for coaching is designed to boost your EQ, but it's not like a course or curriculum on how to build EQ. The other thing is for a course, we can do something like a course. We have Dr. K's guide, but that too is a different level of outcomes from like actually having some kind of structured program with practice. So what we're trying to figure out is like, how do we help y'all actually like solve particular problems? Yeah, okay. So I see that y'all are kind of, it looks like 40% are no money. Okay, and that's fine, right? So we do a lot of stuff for free. Like most of what we do is free. Yeah, so it's not like, whatever resources we have is what we're going to use. And we're like, the core challenge that we face is that, helping people takes money. And we can try to scale as well as we can. We can try to do as much stuff as we can for free. And even the stuff that we do for free compensates us some, right? That's how we find, like, we have like, editors and people like that. So, which is great. People are asking, is this going to be on YouTube? Well, that depends. Because putting it on YouTube is not a free process. So someone's got to edit it. Someone's got to, title it. Someone's got to thumbnail it. And so for those of y'all, I know that people like sometimes like sub and give donations and stuff. All that stuff helps. And for those of y'all that haven't seen resource packs, you should definitely check them out. And that's what we built. And we've got like devs on staff that build this stuff. No, but I mean, the free stuff is good. I mean, like if that's what y'all, want, that's fine. And it's nice to see that 37% of people are willing to pay for it. So that makes us more inclined to develop it. Because what that means is that we will somehow get, if we invest funding, there'll be some kind of return. So we won't like lose money. Because losing money is really what we try to avoid. Basically, when we make money, we'll build free stuff. Yeah, so one-time payment, like, I like that stuff too. I don't know if app is, I don't know about that because we have a one-time payment kind of thing and we're big fans of that. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you all for sharing this stuff. This matters a lot to us. Is there going to be a guide for trauma? I'm trying to write one. But we've got something. Stay tuned to Monday. We've got a couple of announcements coming. Okay. I don't know about Kickstarter. Okay, we'll think about it. So we generally speaking are a little bit careful about that kind of stuff, right? So there's a lot of stuff that we haven't done so far. I'm not saying that we won't do it, but yeah. I am tired. Thank you for noticing. Okay. So I gotta go. We're at time for today. Who should we raid, chat? What emotion is that? Tiredness? I think this is physical tiredness. Emotionally, I feel great. Squeaks? Let's raid Squeaks. Works for me. Tell Squeaks that I want to take a look at his biodata. All right? We got to make sure, we got to get this boy married. He can't be single forever. He's just so gorgeous and has a beautiful head of hair, but who knows for how long. So we got to capitalize on it. All right, take care, y'all. Adios.